Lexus IS300 is like a freaking staple in the car community nowadays. Everybody wants to get their hands on one, and for good reason. Let's talk about that. That sounded like Good Mythical Morning. Whoa, I wasn't trying to steal from Good Mythical Morning. But anyway, my name is Mark Roden, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing none other than the good, the bad, and the ugly on the Lexus IS300. I love these cars. They look so much fun. But guys, before we get into this list, please let me know another car you want to see in the comments, because every time I do a list on one of these cars, it's because somebody commented to do one. So if you want your car to be seen in a good, the bad, and the ugly, comment it down below. Let's get into it. So, real quick, the way this works is first I talk about the car, what it came with, the trim levels, the options it had. Then we get into the Modifiability, whether it's good for drifting, good for drag racing, or good for show car builds, which our show car builds can be pretty much anything. And then we finally get into the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we'll explain that when we get there. Anyway, the Lexus IS300 / Toyota Altezza. Yes, if you live overseas, it is the Altezza. It is pretty much the exact same car. Literally, I think everything is ported over completely, so I'm pretty sure they're exactly the same car. It was a luxury car that turned into a little sports monster for some reason. People realized, hey, this thing's got a 2J in it. That's right, thing's got a 2J. And so they were like, hey, we can make this into a sports car. And that's exactly what they did. By the way, the car went by the chassis code XE10, which no one ever uses, and I'm just saying, I think more people should start using that chassis code when describing their IS300. You know how people are like, oh, that Z33 for the 350Zs? Why don't they use XE10 when describing IS300s? Because it would be pretty cool. Anyway, it's a little confusing, but here's how the car went. It was produced from 1998 to 2005, and in the years 1998 to 2000, it was actually named the IS200, and that came in either a 6-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic. Easy choice there. And it came with either a 2-liter inline-4 or a 2-liter inline-6, both engines that nobody wanted. Nobody wants to buy the 2-liter inline-4 or 2-liter inline-6 IS300, so don't let them fool you into buying one. Anyway, from 2000 to 2005, it was named the more sought-after, the more known IS300, which came with a 5-speed auto, once again, because for some reason people buy automatic cars. Don't tell me why, but they do it. That one does not matter. And it came with the legendary 2JZGE that made 225 horsepower and 218 foot-pounds of torque. Foot-pounds of twerk? Yes, please. Sign me up for some 218 foot-pounds of twerk. Jeez Louise. Only if it's Addison Rae, though. Addison Rae, hit me up. Anyway, the car came in either a sedan, or you could actually get them in a freaking wagon. That's right, you can get an IS300 in a wagon, and it looks awesome. I'll have to include a video, but it looks so cool, man. The wagon IS300s are awesome. Obviously, that horsepower number and torque number isn't super quick, but it got the job done, especially when talking about drifting. This car is a drift monster. On top of that, the car didn't come out to be a race car. The car came out to be a luxury cruiser, like I stated in the beginning, and so Toyota wasn't really reaching for that. It's just kind of funny that we, us car guys, were like, oh, look at that, it's a 2J, let's make it into a race car. And we were just, yeah, now it's popular. Also, both the Altezza and IS300 were only available in rear-wheel drive, since back then even the sedans were cool. Now let's get into the modifiability of the car, which was obviously heavily influenced by drifting. There is 4 things you need when talking about a drift car, and they are manual transmission, rear-wheel drive, a reliable engine that can make decent power, and a car that's dirt cheap. And even though the IS300 is stupid money nowadays due to drift tax, bro, yo, drift tax, my car, you can drift it, so I'm gonna charge you 15K for it. Back then, they were not even close to as much as they are now. They were so dirt cheap, and since nobody really cared about them whatsoever, they made a great choice for people who just wanted to swing it around corners, which is why, if you go to a drift event, you're going to see an IS300 swinging it all around. People picked them up, people scooped them up and built a drift car out of them years ago when they were $2,000 for one of them, and now you can't even find an automatic one for less than 5K. What is going on? All right, this is ridiculous. Anyway, for the show scene, it's kind of all over the place. You have your big camber builds, you got your aggressive aero builds, and you even got your clean OEM style builds. Since, like I said before, most of these cars aren't being used for show builds, but rather for drifting. So when people go the show car route, they don't really have a base to like judge upon, which I think is kind of a big deal when talking about going the show car route. Most show cars are influenced by other show cars. Like, that's the way I look at it, at least. Most show cars, like BRZs, they're either huge camber or wide body kits. And even sometimes they combine the two and make huge camber wide body BRZs. And that's like what they stick with because it works and it looks good. But the IS300, people have to kind of use their creativity because like I said, most people don't build these for show cars. They're build them for drift cars. And so they don't really know where to go. As a matter of fact, I don't think they make any like really nice popular wide body kits for these cars because not a lot of people need the wide body kit. They always just go for freaking drift cars, and drifting works. These cars are great at it. They have a short wheelbase. They have, like I said, good power. They have manual transmission, rear wheel drive. And so everybody, when they buy these cars, they're not like, oh, I need to turn this thing into a beautiful car, because they know it's not going to be a beautiful car. They know they're going to drift the thing, and so they're just like, let's just make a drift missile out of it. Anyway, circuit racing is possible, but it's definitely not the best choice on one of these since they are just a sedan. They weren't meant to be a track monster. So if you want a track car, IS300 is definitely not your best choice. Drag racing, same deal there. Wasn't meant to be a drag, wasn't meant to be a straight line speed car, so people don't do them. But now let's finally get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the way this works is I do the good first, which is things that you just can't deny is great about the car. Next is we get into the bad, which are things that you can take it or leave it. If you like it, there you go. If you don't like it, oh boy. And last, we get into the ugly, which is things that are just god awful about the car and just really kind of ruin the experience. Anyway, let's start with the good, baby. First off is the car is an appreciating asset. What that means is you will not lose your money as long as you take good care of it, since they are enthusiast cars. Now, on top of that, they still aren't quite at S13 prices, but they will be in a couple of years because people think that they're like the super special, awesome car, so they're freaking overpricing them. It makes me so mad. But what I'm saying is if you buy yourself one of these, you're not going to lose money as long as you take good care of it. In a couple of years, they'll be worth more. Next is they have huge aftermarket support, especially when talking about engine mods, since this engine was not only named the 2JZ, but was also seen in multiple other Lexuses / Toyotas. I'm talking SC300, I'm talking GS300, I'm talking the naturally aspirated Supras even had 2JZ GEs in them. Every single company hopped on it to make some good old engine mods to make it the next 2JZ GTE. People were like, oh, how do I get my GE to be a GTE? Gotta buy a turbo, gotta build the internals. And so all these companies were like, oh, they're gonna do it, and so they started building parts for them. And so there's a lot of aftermarket support out there. Next is the amount of fun you're going to have in one of these, which is insane. All right, these cars are super cool, they're super fun, they're just little drift missiles that you will definitely have a blast in. If you thought an S13 was fast but you don't have S13 money, buy an IS300. It's pretty much the same thing. Not really, obviously they came with different engines and all that stuff, but they are going to perform the same, they're going to behave the same. You're going to have a freaking blast in an IS300. Now let's get into the bad, and there really isn't much since the bad is kind of subjective. First off, it is rear-wheel drive, so if you live in a snowy area, it's not the best daily. I personally love rear-wheel drive cars, but I will admit, I live up in Connecticut, and Connecticut, you cannot daily drive a rear-wheel drive car. On top of that, it is a pretty bad daily in general, but that depends on the one you get. Obviously, the crappier, cheap ones that most people can afford are bad for daily driving because they've been beaten on. Whereas if you buy a nice, well-kept one that's owned by, you know, Mabel up the street, it will hold up for a while since it is a Toyota. These Toyotas, as we all know, have legendary reliability. That was worded that poorly, but you get what I mean. It was very reliable. And so if you take good care of it, and if the person before you took good care of it, it's obviously going to keep up for a long time. I am messing up my words. Anyway, next is cheap plastics and just an outdated interior in general. This happens a lot with early 2000s cars, especially these like cheaper enthusiast cars, since most people used to use them for a daily driver, and they definitely show that. I mean, you're talking about these guys that get in the car and they're just like, dude, you want to play tic-tac-toe on my dashboard? They don't even care about the car. They're just beating up the car all the time. And so you're going to have these plastics that are just been scratched. It looks like they had Wolverine sitting in the passenger seat. And you're going to be like, what is going on here? Well, it's an early 2000s car. You have to understand that every early 2000s car, no matter how luxurious it was back then, it's not luxurious anymore. And so they are going to be just, you know, it's going to, like I said, it's going to look like freaking Wolverine and Freddy Krueger had a playdate in there, and you're just not going to like it. Next is cup holders are basically useless. Once again, you don't need cup holders if you're a drifty boy, so why do you care about that? Another thing is it has a 2J in it, but it does not have the 2J in it that everyone wants. The reason this is in the bad and not in either the ugly or the good is because if you only need like 400 horsepower, which guys, that's more than you think, all right? Especially in an early 2000s car. I'm sick of people bashing on like 400, 300 horsepower, all being like, that's not even fast anymore. It's still fast, all right? It's still quick. It's it'll do the trick, all right? You'll have a blast in a 400 horsepower car. But if you do want a high horsepower car, yes, they're going to have to rebuild the engine or just swap the engine out with a different, more capable engine. So that's why I put it there. It depends on what you're going for. Another thing is, it's very small, but the dashboard gets bubbly and sticky over time, which is just kind of gross. I mean, there's a lot of gross things about this car, but it gets a little under there. And last for the bad is the clout, which, I mean, this is something that I actually do care about. I'll admit it. I like my cars to gain people's attention. I like that. I don't know. I feel like this is just how I am. But obviously, for the most part, I care about how I enjoy the car, but I still like people looking at my car. And the only reason why this one sucks is because no matter what, everyone that's a car guy is going to expect you to be drifting it, and the people that aren't car guys aren't really going to look at it. I mean, it is a cool car, and it's cooler than like your average car on the road, but if it's stock, it really isn't. I mean, if it's stock, it just looks boring, and not a lot of people are going to want to like go up to you and talk to you, especially if they're not a car guy. And the car guys that do are going to be like, dude, are you drifting it? Are you drifting it? And you're just going to be like, no, man, I'm not, all right? Don't hate me. Next, let's get into the ugly, which, as we all know, is stuff that just absolutely sucks about the car, and you just can't get rid of it. First off is the automatics are hilariously slow. We know this with early 2000s cars already, but good freaking gravy is this one stupidly slow. And it's almost impossible to find one that isn't in automatic too, so it's almost like you have to buy an automatic, and the automatics are just piss slow. You might as well walk to work. You'll get there faster. Jeez Louise. Next is they're overpriced. I mean, these cars are getting into that area that the S13s are in, where people think they have something special, so they price it way too out of the sky high, when in reality their car is worth like $2K. Now, I know that these cars aren't going to be coming down in price anytime soon, but they should. They're not worth $7,000, bud. All right, I don't want to spend $7 grand on a manual IS300. I want to spend $2 because that's how much they're worth. They're nothing special. Stop acting like you got yourself a Lambo. It's not a Lambo. Next is parts aren't cheap. Cosmetic mods are pretty cheap, yes, but they always are. No matter what car you're looking into, cosmetic mods are not going to be expensive. I'm talking about mechanical parts. They're just not cheap in the slightest. Since, I mean, they are a 2JZ, so you kind of have to, like, you know, realize that. And even though a lot of cars came with them, those exact same cars are kind of rare today. So same with those parts. Like I said before, it does have good aftermarket support. I'm not saying that like the aftermarket support isn't there, but the aftermarket support is expensive. And it's just like, why? It's all over the place, but why are you not giving it to me for free? You know, if only everything was free. So now, do I think you should buy the car? If it's your first car, no, not at all. I think it has way too many problems out of the gate, and especially for the one that you're probably going to be able to afford. First cars are usually pretty cheap junkers, probably under 5K if you're lucky. On top of that, it's rear-wheel drive, and starting on rear-wheel drive isn't the best option. Like I said before, these cars are extremely overpriced, so the ones under 5K are going to be hunks of junk. But if you do want a project car, or if you want to get started in the drifting world, I do think it's a great choice. If you can find one that isn't too overpriced. No matter what, you will have to buy one that is overpriced due to just the fact that it has major drift tax nowadays. Every car with drift tax is just so stupid. Like, I want to drift too, buddy. You don't have to charge me 10 grand more just because you were drifting it before. It doesn't even make any sense. And your car was beaten on. It's like, why should I pay more for a car that's been beaten on? You've been drifting it, you soaked up all the fun out of it. Now I gotta get it and fix the car, and you're like, oh, 10 grand more. Why? Why am I paying for your enjoyment? Makes no sense. Makes no freaking sense. Anyway, I also think that if you want a straight line speed car or a daily driver, this is a pretty damn silly choice. I'm sorry for anybody that daily drives an IS300. I just think it's not the best choice. It wasn't built for drag racing, okay? That's an obvious one. A Lexus drag racing, I've never heard of that in my life. And they're old cars now, so you could definitely find something better when talking about daily driving. On top of that, yes, you might think to yourself, oh, well, they're older cars, so they're going to be cheaper than a newer car. Yeah, but they're 6 grand for one with 200,000 miles. You might as well just freaking buy a Camry or even a Jetta. I found a Mark 6 Jetta with under 100,000 miles for $3,000 the other day on Facebook Marketplace. I was like, what? That's a great deal. Buy yourself one of those if you need a daily driver, not an IS300. You're going to give yourself migraines. You're going to hate life if you buy yourself an IS300 for a daily driver. But that is the end of this list. I hope you got list. I said it again. I said list. I keep saying list. I'm sorry, it's not a list. That's the end of this video. Whew. Got a little worked up there, I'm sorry. But anyway, that is the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If I missed anything and you own an IS300 and you want to say something down in the comments, feel free. I don't own one. I could be wrong, so let me know. On top of that, let me know another car you want to see. But if it's a car I already did before, don't. Okay? I already did it. Did it. Anyway, guys, I love you. I love you all so much. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. It means the world to me. You guys are making my life so, like this was my life before I started YouTube. And this is my life now. 2 years in, no, a year into YouTube. Yay! I'm just smiling, cheesing from ear to ear. So thank you guys so much. Also, this Sunday, I'm going to a drift event. Oh, what's that? What's that? I'm going to a drift event. That's right. That's right. I'm going to a drift event, boys. So you guys better be ready for that. I'm going to vlog the whole thing. I'm going to upload it on either Sunday or Monday night. I hope you guys are excited for that. But anyway, I love you. Das Vidania, and have a nice day.